morning. Well, I've woken up unexpectedly early. Probably about 5:15 now. Because I'm being trained how to use a till at from 11 o'clock onwards in the charity shop I volunteer in. So, how's my week been? Mixed bag. Tuesday afternoon, I unexpectedly ended up as a semi-tour guide to a bunch of students who were apparently touring across the UK looking at community projects, of which CHIP, Ipswich Community Hub, is one of. Because I just went down there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and all of a sudden there were about 30 or 40 people in and around the place. Like, what's going on here? And Ed and Daisy were taking them for a walk around various parts of Ipswich to explain, the empty shops and why they're empty. Talk about the goals of CHIP, and yeah, that kind of thing. I know a fair bit about the history. Excuse me. And I have an eye for architectural detail. The ancient house is one of Ipswich's oldest buildings and grandest. And I was pointing out different parts of the world represented by the scroll work and decorations on it, because it was basically built to celebrate the British Empire. Controversial subject. Well, that's my lungs saying good morning. I am that same day, excuse me, I received rather the compliment. I was strolling through town on my way to CHIP when a rather cheerful foreign gentleman, I would call him, looked at me and went, "Oh, Chuck Norris." And I went, "Multimesk." And he was Romanian, so he was like, "Oh, Multimesk." Oh. I thought, wow. I got compared to the Giga Chad of unkillable action heroes. That really made my day. Who doesn't love Chuck Norris, eh? As an actor, I don't want to know about the man's political leanings or what he does or is like behind the scenes, but just as an actor, at the end of the day, he's just an actor, but he is damn cool. And being compared to him, I felt quite chuffed. Oh, All right, let's get some negatives out of the way, shall we? Now, I do some online work with a Midlands-based promotional outfit called Ragebreed UK. The owner of which and the company is being targeted by a group of, I think the term is haters, because A, she's a woman, B, she's mixed race, and C, she's apparently quite successful. So draw your own conclusions as to why a bunch of people, including fellow promoters, are doing this. Yeah, I mean, I was quite flattered in a strange, twisted sort of way, because these people went trawling through about 3 years of my Facebook. That must have been entertaining for, and occasionally very dull, to piece together a narrative that I was a racist, misogynistic, bullying, basically psychotic little man. I don't know about you guys, but 5'11", I think, is round about 5'11", 6 foot is round about average height. So if they consider that little, then what are they? Children of the Nephilim, giants, Jotun? I don't know. You tell me. And I basically got given notice of this by the owner of Ragebreed, well, and the owner and head honcho at Ragebreed. And I was like, oh, fair enough, let's have a look. Looked at this. I went, really? Oh, the fact that I owned reenactment axes means I'm a psycho. That wasn't said, but it's the genuine implication, isn't it? Apparently a moan from the time of COVID. Well, it's still with us, I understand, but when COVID was still a big thing, I think this was just after lockdown. So precautions were still being taken very seriously. Right, basically. Smoker's morning cough. Don't smoke, people. I don't encourage that. Basically, I wrote a bit of a tirade against possibly homeless drug users hanging about and causing hassle outside and indeed inside Tesco's at about 8:30 in the morning. Not taking proper precautions, of course. Swaying about drunk in the place. And really wanted to leave, of course, because this woman was making me feel uncomfortable. And I really didn't want COVID. Oh, I had my mask up, of course, which she was making comments about, because it's my I used this basically. It's kind of why I bought it. It was just her version of very drunken, clumsy banter, I seem to remember. But the bit they really picked up on was the fact that I was being irritated by the foreign gentleman in front of me. It's the second time I've used that phrase. Who basically wanted scratch cards and decided he didn't know enough English to actually ask for them, so was just pointing at the numbers and grunting, and the cashier can't see the numbers from behind the till, which at that time was still covered by plastic and glass. And it took an inordinate amount of time because this person wasn't being very communicative. Apparently that makes me racist. Oh, and probably the fact that they highlighted in one of my videos that I mentioned a fact in that I work in do volunteer work in a charity shop where a certain ethnic grouping are known to shoplift from the charity shop. This is not racism, this is a statement of fact and is known to the local police. There are gangs from this particular ethnic minority who go around shoplifting from the charity shops in town. That's fact, it is not bias. Some of them apparently rent flats above the actual charity shop I work in. So perhaps one day one of them will try and break in through the ceiling, and we'll have some partial CCTV footage, where they can't get out again and end up, making a mess of the place. I mean, I won't like having to tidy it up, but the footage could be funny. So yeah, and they used screenshots from a recent falling out I had with a female friend that's now been sorted out to prove that I was misogynistic. My partner has the final say in everything I do. And she will extremely show me her disapproval if she doesn't like what I'm doing. So I obey her in all things, and that's interesting from someone who's apparently misogynistic, isn't it? So I processed this all, thought about it for about 15, 20 minutes. And I decided, right, I was like, wow, I'm actually quite flattered. You went to all this trouble to cherry pick through 3 years of my Facebook to suit your agenda. Well done, slow clap. Someone actually laughed at that one. The reply was basically a tirade of abuse, accusing me of all these things: racism, misogyny, bullying. I would say I'm extremely confident and assertive and sometimes quite aggressive in getting my point across. Some people may see that as bullying. I think a lot of people these days do see that as bullying. It goes along with the current climate that anybody who's aggressively assertive is seen as a bully, regardless of sex. But I think this seems to be applied. Bubblegum. Oh, there I am. This seems to be applied to women more than men, but in this case, it was being applied to me. And yeah, so then I was like, oh, that's right. I believe the precise term was something like racist, bully boy, edgelord. Yeah, I can be a bit edgy, I admit that. I think I'm a little too old for the term edgelord. I'm just a grumpy old bastard. And I was like, the misogynistic argument was so weak, I didn't even bother replying to that side of what they were saying. And edgelord, to be honest, yes, I can be a bit edgy and moody. So that didn't bother me either. But racist? I went down this route and I explained, yeah, I regularly volunteer at a community hub that welcomes people from all across the world and have made several friends from different ethnic backgrounds. I volunteer at a charity shop that deals with mental health and homelessness. Where's the blackbird? A feathered avian. Just in case someone thought I was being racist. I then went on to say, yes, who also greets Indians with Namaste. Who thanks Romanians in their own language. Who regularly shops in a Kurdish supermarket. Yeah. Whoa, gone dark. Oh, there I am. Whoa, yeah. I'm a horrible racist. Okay. Apparently this was virtue signalling. And memes about token African descent friends or Caribbean, whatever. And I was like, really? These people will do anything to prove their agenda to their fellow haters, and they just live in their own little bubble, probably in their basement. Oops. Hello. My camera is apparently still drunk, but I'm not. I think I went to bed about 11 last night. I think in total between 7 and 11 I had 1 bottle of wine and a pint and a half of cider. And then a glass of water, and then I went to bed. Which for me is not that hard. Alright, let's get back to the comfortable position, shall we? And at that point, I was like, ugh. I just felt like I couldn't really be bothered with it anymore. And I was like, you know something? You're getting rather dull and repetitive. I'm getting bored. Ciao. And blocked and reported the site. These people have gone to the trouble of making a Facebook site simply to discredit Ragebreed UK. Oh, I don't know about you, but I've got better things to do with my life. I occasionally think about doing stupid things. I left me coffee over there. I don't know. I mean, some of you may think, well, she must have done something really bad to acquire this level of hatred. But, you know, I know Karina in person. I've never met her physically, but we have had many intellectual chats. She's smart, driven, professional, all things that these people don't seem to be. And of course, she's a woman and she's mixed race. So why would she employ a racist, misogynistic bully boy? Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Thing is, Stereotypes are there to give us a framework to build from. Not all stereotypes are based on truth, but some are. I'm not going to get into details because I don't like being accused of being racist, because it irritates me slightly. I don't get mad and angry about it because I know I'm not. I suppose at least they couldn't find enough evidence to say throw in homophobic. Oh, that would have been another fun one to defend, considering I regularly associate with people whose genders are in between male and female, homosexual males and females, heterosexual people, bisexual people, polyamorous people, and all these different rainbow colours that they keep changing by the day these days. I don't know. But people can be what they want to be. I don't know. Doesn't really bother me that much unless it's, oh no, I'm not going there. I'm not touching that one with a barge pole this morning. What are your thoughts on the Olympics recently and the controversy by, people born male competing in women's events? I feel uncomfortable with it. I mean, if they started I'm going there. If they started the surgery and hormonal treatment at an early enough age that male muscle development didn't really kick in, then fair enough. But if it was done at a later stage and male muscle development and levels of testosterone are present, then I think that gives them an unfair advantage. Because let's face it, men are physically more likely to be stronger and more aggressive than women. That is biological fact. So in the wider world, what's been going on, people? Well, I see the US has changed its nuclear policy. Russia is no longer considered the number one threat. It's now China, with the possibility that China, Russia, and North Korea may launch a combined attack on the US. And this is what they now plan for. I believe the downgrading of Russia as a threat is a significant signpost and policy shift. I believe it signals, yet again, to the rest of NATO that they need to pull their socks up and deal with Russia themselves, because the US has China to worry about. And if the Republican administration gets in at the next US election, I think we will see America further remove itself from being a major player in NATO, which means the UK, France, Germany, Poland, all the other NATO countries better start pulling their weight. Otherwise, we is going to have a serious problem. Mind you, the Poles tend to make up for it historically by sheer belligerence alone. You don't piss off a Pole. That's a lesson several historical leaders didn't learn, did they? The Austrian corporal and Stalin being two of them. men with moustaches aren't a good idea, you tend to find. It seems to be a repeating pattern. I don't think I can. I'm 5'11". I paint shields well, so I'm not a failed painter. I don't have a pockmarked face, like Stalin. And I don't believe in either ideology, to be honest. Not that Stalin was communist anyway. Yeah, this went down a strange rabbit hole, which my videos normally do. Anyway, you people come here for the tangents. And then an all-day exchange of rocketry and missile fire between Israel and Hamas in Lebanon. Does this bode a wider conflict in the Middle East? Probably. It ain't looking good out there, is it? Then there's the problems with what's left of my blood family. Going back to micro scale. Myself and my partner have been having some financial difficulties for the last 3 or 4 months. Because 3 or 4 months ago she was dismissed from a rather well-paid psychiatric nursing job by, I would say, and many other people have said this, an incompetent manager who had caused many other people to leave, gotten rid of many other people, because they threatened to uncover his incompetence and general lack of care in a clinic dealing with psychiatric patients. Go figure. And he chose to dismiss her about, I think, a week before her probationary period was up, which meant she had no real recourse. This meant she had her wages were halved that month before she moved back into one of her old jobs where she still works, which seems to be going well. She has many friends there who welcomed her back, but for the past 3 months, this shortfall has meant, on this occasion, before today, which is her payday, me having to go to food banks, which I've never done before and hope not to do so again, because I feel as though I felt guilty about doing that. There are people more in need, but we needed food. Because my income is, unless I sell something, find a gardening job, is practically zero. There hopefully may be a regular pay position on the horizon, but it could take months, and that'll be 16 hours a week. I have to be very careful about where I choose to be employed, because if people are overwhelmingly non-ADHD autistic, my behaviour is seen as outlandish and weird, and I am victimised. I have been here many times. The last time I put up with 7 years of bullying and harassment, and it took me at least a year to even think about working part-time. I was a mess for well over a year. As for benefits, I claim none. I cannot claim means-tested government unemployment benefits or aid because my partner has a well-paid job. and personal independence payment, or PIP, which is a thing we have in this country for people with mental or physical disabilities. They're run by a private company, which means their goal is to strike as many people off that support list as possible. And because I'm only now going through the process of diagnosis, 4 years ago in a telephone interview with the backup of my partner, who's a psychiatric nurse, which they probably took as she's biased, they chucked me out on my ear and denied me any benefits and didn't even answer the appeals. And then we come to my widowed early stage senile dementia mother, and indeed my younger brother, who back earlier on this year accused me of stealing from my mother, which was blatantly disproven. He has never apologised, and we still don't speak. And I explained to my mother roughly a week ago, just before my partner's birthday, that unless my phone bill was paid, I was going to be cut off again, possibly for longer than a week. In other words, my phone would be restricted to incoming calls and messages only. I mean, I've got WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. So it's not a problem when I'm outside, but it would be incredibly inconvenient. And also, of course, my mother has none of that. Our only communication is by conventional phone. She has distanced herself from me visiting for a couple of months now. She never suggests it, which is interesting. And she basically sent a check, which is the only form of money she can securely send without having to talk to my brother, because he sorts out a lot of her banking. And she sent a check for 60, ostensibly to cover my phone bill, I presumed, and then claimed this was also Michelle's birthday money. So my partner had to use her birthday money to pay my phone bill, which I explained 2 days ago, and she protested a bit too much. And I basically turned around and said, you are letting Brandon rule your finances. You are letting him browbeat you into giving me no aid or support whatsoever when I really need it. I even went as far as saying my younger brother would rather see myself and my partner starve or on the streets than lift a finger to help. And as far as I know, because he doesn't speak, doesn't give me his opinion of me, well, he kind of has. I pushed him far enough that he still seems to think I am a non-functioning alcoholic. I admit to being a functioning alcoholic. I'm a non-functioning alcoholic, a thief, which I plainly am not, who just sits on the sofa all day, plays on his PlayStation. I don't. I sit on the camping chair when I'm on the PlayStation. Refuses to work. Untrue. When I get the chance to work in a welcoming environment, including 2 volunteer jobs, I do. But he knows he doesn't want to know any of that. Because of course he wasn't. It goes against his prejudgment of me. And his prejudgment of me goes along with what he'd been taught in the place he still works, which is basically that people like me are freaks. people like myself should be, probably in some people's eyes where I used to work, locked away from normal people. They are not welcome in normal society. And that they should be ridiculed, bullied and harassed for any behaviour that is considered out of the norm. I've encountered this kind of bias many times, which yet again is part of the reason why I gave up full-time work, because of my lack of qualifications. I am unsuitable for an office role, well, unless it was the right kind of office. I work best one-to-one. The part-time job I held from roughly a year and a half after I left full-time work till about 2 years ago, so 5 years, was on a large isolated country estate. And basically I worked one-on-one with someone I got on with and had occasional interactions with the other staff and occasional interactions with my employer. And that was it. I would be perfectly happy on a ride-on lawnmower, middle of nowhere, left to myself, doing the job I was told to do, and perfectly content. It's when I get involved with large groups of people, some of whom won't be pleasant, let's face it, that it all falls apart for me. I am very aggressively assertive. This is seen as a threat by people. I am of above average intelligence and knowledge, which is seen as a threat by people in many work environments, especially when it comes to blue collar. You know, I'll always remember my last full-time job. I made an enemy of my supervisor, who had basically been there since he left school at the age of 16, I think. Which is why he ended up a supervisor, no other reason. He was lazy, crude, badly educated. Yeah, that kind of person, I'm afraid. And I always remember 2 weeks into me being in the job, where I was feeling unconfident and defensive anyway. Trust me to put the teaspoon down behind the bloody phone, honestly. Come here, little teaspoon. Nearly out of coffee. Excuse me. Especially when I know I've got an appointment or something new to do. I will tend to get quite anxious, and that sometimes makes me feel a bit nauseous. It's something I've lived with for decades now. It's not easy. I sometimes pinch there, and it does help. It's a trick I learned off an old friend. don't know why I'm nervous. It's only training in how to use a shop till. But, you know, I just get nervous. So many of you may ask if I suffer from these kind of anxiety issues or occasions, why do I do this? Why do I expose myself to ridicule and abuse online? With my difficulties with conventional working styles, what else can I do? I mean, 2 other attempts at getting qualifications or getting involved in things seem to have fallen flat on their face. I applied for a free sailing course just to add a qualification. I've heard nothing back, so I presumed there's been complications there. I also have applied to volunteer to help out at a project to build a Saxon Viking style ship up the road in Woodbridge. Basically to be one of their artists and craftsmen who makes items from the oak offcuts so that they can sell in their shop to help fund the project. I've heard nothing back from them either. That could just be disorganisation, but when people don't know me, I often get taken the wrong way. This is a difficulty. Anybody who sees my CV will go, we're not employing him, because it's sketchy as all hell. And this is a problem I encounter. But would I have my life any other way other than difficult? The answer to that is probably no. I thrive on adversity, conflict, and difficulty. I know this. I know myself pretty well by now. What was it Sun Tzu said? Know thy enemy, know thyself. I forget the rest of the quote. My other favourite actually is, many of you will have heard the a jack of all trades is a master of none. What people forget is it's oftentimes better than a master of one. And that is a philosophy I truly believe in. And I am paraphrasing here because I don't remember the full quote. As the science fiction author Robert Heinlein once said, a man should be able to build a house, cook a gourmet meal, geld a hog, defend his family, raise his children, grow crops, write a sonnet, read to his children, because specialisation is for insects. And no matter how much modern liberal capitalism wants us to be drones, we are not. And if you succumb to that, you will never feel right. You will feel the urge to buy the latest Fitbit, the latest iPhone, or whatever brand you choose. I'm not particularly biased. I like Samsung. The latest expensive model of BMW. Yet again, I'm not endorsing BMW. It's rather thirsty on gas, this thing is. I found that, which explains the herbal motif, because I no longer touch that. Haven't done in many years. All I do these days is drink. I've been there with many other substances in the past, long before I met my partner. It never did me no good, which is why I stay the hell away from that whole culture. But each to their own. There are some people who find that the herb relieves their stress, calms them down. It doesn't do that for me. It makes me overly anxious and paranoid. And I'm anxious and paranoid enough already sometimes. Yeah. Find what makes you feel comfortable. Find places where you feel welcome. Do what makes you feel good and happy, providing it harms no other. But if someone means you harm, you find a way of stopping them from doing it or fighting back. Don't take it lying down. Don't meekly allow people to walk over you. Stand up for your rights of an individual, but always remember you need to consider other people's feelings. Those that have them anyway. You take care. I've gone on for long enough, I think, this morning. Hope everyone's well. Enjoy a nice beverage, coffee. Coffee is good. And we shall speak again soon. Ciao.